All right, we are live, but we got to let her breathe just for a moment here while we bring on our Facebook community, get the MHH tribe under one tent, and we are good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime. You know him, you love him. He's the deputy editor of MileHighHuddle.com. He's Zack Kelberman. Zack, you had an interesting piece today at Mile High Huddle, touching on an ex-Viking linebacker hitting free agency. That word on the street, George Paton has a little something in store for him. Tell everybody what the scuttlebutt is.
Well, this is actually, for those who remember, I put out a top 5 Vikings free agents article about a month ago that I think George Paton could build that pipeline to Denver and reunite with. And Eric Wilson, the linebacker, was one of those names. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Woody Page floated him as a possibility, and he said that Eric Wilson will be on George Paton's wish list for the signing period, which begins next week, Chad. Page also mentioned cornerbacks Troy Hill, William Jackson, and Jason Verrett. So either looking for mid-tier guys like we saw, the second wave kind of guys, won't break the bank. I think Wilson's the perfect fit, though. He's young. He's only 26. He's experienced. He has 25 starts in 4 seasons, productive, 234 career tackles, and hand chosen by George Paton, formerly the Vikings assistant general manager, as a 2017 undrafted free agent. He's coming off, though, last year. He was always kind of a backup type, but last year he started 15 games. He led the Vikings in tackles with 122. He added 9 quarterback hits, 8 pass deflections, 3 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. Those takeaways, Chad, he was nicknamed the walking turnover due to his propensity to make plays and make turnovers like that. And he can play inside or outside linebacker. And as we know, the Broncos and Vic Fangio love versatility. They need linebackers with or without Von Miller. They have Atachu hitting the open market, Chicolo hitting the open market, and Joe Jones hitting the open market as well. If only for depth purposes, I would like Eric Wilson in the Broncos uniform. And among the guys from Minnesota, I think this is most likely.
I'm looking to see what his last contract was. He coming off his rookie contract?
Yeah.
All right. So he's been making relative peanuts. So he's going to try and, he signed a 1-year, $3.2 million contract when he was drafted. Let me look at it real quick on Over the Cap. So he was an RFA. Okay. So he played on an RFA tender last year. 10-4. So let me just check one last thing. History. Yeah. 2017. What round pick was he for the Vikings?
Undrafted?
No kidding. Yep. I didn't know that about him. Well, yeah, dude, that's like you put in that piece, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago, I think, about the 5 free agents to keep an eye on. I mean, just the general theme here that are the former Vikings. General theme here is that George Paton is probably more familiar currently with the Vikings roster than the Broncos roster. Not just because he, can memorize a roster or that he's looked at film, but he literally contributed to the building of the Vikings roster. So there's a connection there. There's a bond there. It's not going to be a surprise if you see 1 or 2 of those unrestricted guys coming out of Minnesota landing in Denver. And this might be one of them because, Zach, it checks a need for the Denver Broncos, which is linebacker. It's not just linebacker depth the Broncos need. Broncos need linebacker playmaking ability.
Yeah, linebackers, plural, whether inside or outside. And one of the comments says, which is true, I mean, Eric Wilson, he can be a replacement for Josie Jewell. They are bringing back Alexander Johnson. But the more of the backup types in a worst-case scenario, like I said, Atachu and Chicolo, those 2 guys were seeing heavy action last season in Von Miller's absence. You can upgrade on them big time. You get a guy who can play specials. You get a guy who knows, obviously, George Paton. He can play outside. He won't break the bank either. He's not going to require – Matt Milano today got, $11 million a year for 4 years, $44 million. He won't cost that much. You can get him for maybe $4 million, couple, 3 years. That would be a nice deal for Denver and a nice way for George Paton to kind of break in his signing period with one of his own.
Indeed. There are a few little nuggets, some information that has come out today from Broncos HQ that we're going to analyze, and we're going to get to all that here in a minute. Plus, it's our favorite podcast of the week. It's the Mile High Mailbag, that time where we take a peek inside because we are your football priests. Each and every week, we're here to offer you the absolution and the answers to your burning Broncos questions, and we look forward to getting to those here in just a moment's time. But first, gang, we do have to say hello to the presenting sponsor of tonight's live stream podcast. You guessed it, Manscaped. Listen up. It's time to embrace that new year, new me mindset. All right. We're now 3 months in, nearly 2.5 months into 2021. Even if it's not about the new year, new me, I mean, even if it's just about, hey, self-care, grooming, taking it to another level, Manscaped is the way to go because they've helped over 2 million men across the world do just that. All right. And they offer the best, Zach, in men's below the waist grooming.
I mean, I can personally attest to it. Like I mentioned yesterday, I use a lawnmower very, very often. And I saw a comment that said it's time for Kelberman to shave, #Kelberman cut. I do shave quite often. It grows back pretty fast. But when I want to clean up or when I want to make it nice or make it straight, I always use the lawnmower 3.0. It still has a battery. The grip is as strong as ever. It's comfortable in your hand. It really works effectively. There's no bumps. There's no scratches, no abrasions. There's nothing that goes wrong. And like I mentioned, and I want to appeal to the above the belt crowd, it doesn't have to be below the waist. It doesn't have to be those buzzwords that we like to use and those euphemisms. It can be above the belt. It can be your chest. It can be your arms, your face, your neck, your shoulders. I personally love this product a lot because I use it very, very often, and I'm appealing to every male out there. If you shave like I do or anywhere close to it, get yourself Manscaped. You will not regret it.
You don't want to miss out on that lawnmower. That's the piece de resistance. All right. But there's so many different little accoutrements and little assets and products Manscaped offers you to take your game to another level. So embrace the new year, new me mindset. Go to manscaped.com. If you use the code Huddle, you're going to get 20% off plus free shipping. And trust when we say your boys, they're going to thank you.
Yes, get 20% off and free shipping with the code Huddle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code Huddle.
All right, couple quick things, and then we're diving right into the mailbag and a few other topics. Maybe the topics will get broached within the mailbag. But guys, are you following the podcast on Twitter? If not, here's how you do it. Connect with us there at Huddle Up Pod, the main account for breaking Broncos news and analysis at Mile High Huddle. My partner, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, as you can see on the screen there, myself, at Chad and Jensen, and our producer, Buana Beast, on Twitter, at John K. MHH. And then, hey, have you followed the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page? If not, I'm just telling you right now, you really are missing the boat. We got a lot of cool things happening planned for this page, but we have a specific watermark. We have a specific threshold we got to cross in terms of our listener base, moving on over there and following and liking the page before we can unveil some of that stuff just because of the way Facebook algorithms work. And so that's why we're continuing to do the giveaways. All right. If you are both liking and following the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page each and every week, you are automatically entered in to win our giveaway, our drawing. All right. A little bit of merch and whether it's a t-shirt, hat, mug, something like that. So this is what it looks like. It's easy to find. Open up Facebook on your phone, type Huddle Up Podcast. You'll see it, like it, follow, and you'll have that taken care of. We appreciate it. Also, gang, while we're talking about Facebook, have you become a supporter? Zach, I don't know if you noticed this, but we saw a huge spike just in the last 2 weeks of new supporters. Not so much new listeners, right? These are our listeners that are with us each and every day, but people taking the call to action and saying, all right, I'm going over to Mile High Huddle's Facebook page. They're clicking the big blue button. They're paying the $5 a month so that they can become a supporter and get access to Kelberman's Corner. Plus, we have the new show that is debuting on Saturday at noon. And you guys, trust me when I say it's going to be, it's for those of you that are draft oriented, let's just say draft nerds for lack of a better term, you're going to love it. All right. The Trickle Zone is coming starting on Saturday at noon Mountain Time. You'll have access to that so long as you are an official supporter on Facebook. And then guys, merch store, huddleuppod.com, head on over there, get a hat, get a t-shirt, get your swag on. And if you're not in a position to do those things, trust when we say it's all good. We're seriously just stoked to have you with us, but we do ask these 3 things. Please subscribe. Please like the video if we're doing a good job, if you respect the effort. And 3, same thing. If we're doing a good job for you, share this video out there and help us continue to grow and reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you. All right, John, let's grab this one here from Drew Hollenbeck, who pre-submitted a question on Twitter, one of our great superstars and a bastion in the MHH community. He says, linebacker options are dwindling. Matt Milano off the table now. Zach put out the article about Eric Wilson, who I'd be thrilled with. Kyle Van Noy is still out there, or do we go get Micah Parsons in the draft? Now, Zach, before you answer this, I thought it was interesting. Daniel Jeremiah, who has recently kind of replaced over the last couple of years since Mike Mayock took the job with Gruden with the Raiders, he's kind of replaced him as NFL.com's kind of draft guru, go-to guy, right? And he's a former scout. He's very plugged in. He's been a scout for 3 different NFL clubs, knows what he's talking about, knows the scuttlebutt. He says, look, it's Micah Parsons or bust for the Broncos at pick 9. So with that context, what's your answer for Drew?
I don't agree. I mean, first of all, if Caleb Farley's there, I don't think it's or bust if Parsons is there as well. But, if you sign an Eric Wilson, it's not precluding me from taking Micah Parsons because, like you mentioned, they need help at linebacker, outside, inside depth, starters, future, short term. I wouldn't mind him. I'm not scared of the red flags surrounding Micah Parsons. I think some of that will be overblown, as it usually is. I think he's the most dynamic linebacker, the complete package in this draft class. But you have to weigh what the Broncos need most on defense. And they already have 2 starting inside linebackers. And if they sign Eric Wilson, they'll have some depth there. They legit desperately need cornerback starters, backups, reserves. They need a lot of help there. So that's why if Farley's on the board, if Parsons on the board, it's a tough decision. But I have to weigh the overall need in Denver's defense. And I think the need is stronger in the secondary at cornerback.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I've said before on this pod, I'm not going to cry if the Broncos somehow, have to settle for drafting Micah Parsons, right? I jest, right? That's a joke. He's a phenomenal player. There are the off-field, as you mentioned. There's some concerns there, but man, imagine this dude in a Vic Fangio defense. I mean, good Lord, that would just be something phenomenal. But I think the more dire need, because you do have, for what they might lack in that sideline to sideline coverage ability, you do have 2 very, Zach, reliable linebackers. It's not a whole. It's something that you want to upgrade. I mean, you're looking to upgrade anywhere possible across the roster, but it's not a hole in the same way that you literally don't have bodies right now at cornerback that you could field on a starting defense to go against the Mahomeses, the Herberts, the Carrs of the AFC West.
Yeah, and what do they say? You can't have all pros at every position. You can't have first-round picks or dynamic players at every spot. And as much as we want that dynamic 3-down inside linebacker, the Broncos need shutdown cornerbacks. Vic Fangio's defense is centered around the secondary play, the cornerback play, the secondary play, the safety play, and they have 2 great safeties there already. I would lean toward Caleb Farley. I think he's safer, even with the opt-out, him not playing for a while. He's the perfect fit for Vic Fangio's defense. And let me just say about Kyle Van Noy, I don't have any interest. He's going to get overpaid like Milano did. They're not going to go that route. And even Woody Page said, what we've been saying for quite a while now, do not expect a very active signing period. Expect a fairly quiet signing period where they target the second-tier guys, and Eric Wilson is the perfect candidate for that agenda.
That line reminded me of you remember the Will Ferrell movie, The Other Guys? Where he's kind of gaslighting his partner played by Mark Wahlberg, comes over for dinner, and he can't believe how beautiful Will Ferrell's wife is in the movie. And he's like, because he plays a total nerd, Will Ferrell, in the movie, right? And he's like, what? Will Ferrell's acting surprised, like, why are you making such a big deal about my average wife? He's like, they can't all be first-round picks. It's funny, dude. That's one of my favorite Will Ferrell movies for what it's worth. Let's grab Mohamed Badri, bona fide superstar, rocking the profile pick, one of our favorites of all time. He says, is it really fair to evaluate Locke this season while the coaching staff is still the same? Hint, Shermer, I'm sure is what he's saying there. So interesting that he brings that up, Zach, because another story that went like wildfire today at milehighhuddle.com was based on a little something that Mike Kliss revealed in a recent article. George Paton promises, this is the verbiage Kliss used in his report, promises to add a proven quarterback, proven competition for Drew Lock. And I just want to read this little snippet, and then I'm going to serve it over to you. This is Kliss today. Quote, new general manager George Paton promises to either trade for or sign a veteran quarterback with starting experience to compete with Lock. At the very least, Lock will have to compete for his starting job in 2021. He simply didn't play well enough in 2020 to keep it without a threat. And then he goes on to say, as a second-year quarterback in 2020, Locke was given every chance, even when he wasn't playing well. Vic Fangio never pulled him. It was Locke or bust in 2020, but the Broncos finished 5-11, and Locke wound up ranked number 32 in passer rating among qualified quarterbacks. It won't be Locke or bust in 2021. Paton already tried to acquire Matthew Stafford in a trade, but Detroit sent him to the Rams instead. It may be Locke to start the season, but if he busts, the Broncos want a proven alternative to play instead, close quote, which is no surprise to us, right, Zach? We've been preparing everyone for this all along, but he's saying that the GM is promising to do this.
Yeah, none of this is really surprising, but it is. If we can take Kliss at his word, which for the most part we can, it kind of rules out Denver from drafting a quarterback, doesn't it, Chad? We got that question yesterday. What if they draft a quarterback at 9 and have Locke with them? It's one or the other. You want the starting, the young guy, or you want the older guy with experience. That's why it's not going to be more than likely Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. It's going to be an Andy Dalton or Nick Foles or whoever kind of type to hold a clipboard for Drew Lock until or if Locke either gets injured or isn't competent for the job. And I think that's always been the breadcrumbs that George Paton through 2 months has left behind for us to follow. It's leading toward a veteran quarterback that can give the Broncos competition for Locke and keep them afloat, but not necessarily to replace Locke outright because, like we've been saying, and it's not a popular sentiment, George Paton in his first year wants to see what Locke can do given a ideal or close to set of circumstances.
Well said. Hey, we recognize this name. I don't know. Sounds familiar. Levi. Oh, yeah, the dude, the freaking superstar we had on the show last night. That was great talking with you, brother. Appreciate the super. He goes, when can we expect some free agent signings, maybe that veteran quarterback? So that all begins. Let's get you a timeline laid out, gang. Free agency, or the AKA the new league year, officially opens March 17th. So what's that, Zach? A week ago yesterday, right? A week from yesterday. The 2-day legal tampering period that always is kind of the precursor to the opening of the new league year starts Monday, all right, March 15th. So Monday is when the deals are going to start getting lubed and done. You'll hear that two sides have agreed to terms, and then as soon as Wednesday, they'll be able to actually sign the deals, and it's done. So that's the timeline, Zach. As far as when the quarterback gets signed in that cycle, where do you see it happening?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're going to get rumors hot and heavy on Sunday night going into the tampering period. It should make for an interesting podcast at the very minimum. But, yeah, there's going to be a lot of deals out of the gates, but I don't expect George Paton to leap for anyone. I don't expect him to be that aggressive for anyone in specific. It could get done fairly quickly, though, because whatever quarterback they're targeting, that quarterback likely will have offers as well. So if they want to chase Andy Dalton's probably going to have offers from around the NFL to either be a backup or maybe a veteran bridge starter. It would come together fairly quickly, but we'll know more about it on Sunday going into Monday. And by Wednesday, the opening of the league year, Chad, the signing period, most of these deals will be done, agreed to in principle, and just becoming official that day. But look for the Broncos to get an early jump. They'll make one move, I'd say. Maybe they'll pick up a cornerback or a quarterback. And after that, kind of quiet until that second wave hits, more cuts come out. Paton will take a measured, patient approach to the signing period. Just be patient.
By the way, I'm kind of surprised, excuse me, how much everyone is tripping on the mustache. Let me tell you about the mustache, okay, being gone. I was just doing a routine shave last night, and I
using Manscaped.
In this case, no, I was not using electric trimmer for my face, but I looked down to, I think one of my earbuds popped out of my ear. I was listening to something while I was shaving, and then I just kind of, as I looked away, I ended up shaving off a little too much of the stash. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to shave off. Don't worry, gang. It'll be back in a couple of days. That's all it takes. But yeah, people are tripping on that. James on Twitter, Zach, does the team let him go, then bring in the best available back draft or another? Wait, what is he talking about?
I think about Melvin Gordon.
Okay. Are his troubles and or injury prone truly worth having him stay with the team? We want a sound team and sound individuals. This is what has always made the Broncos great and stand above other teams. So the issue at hand here is that it seemed like maybe the book was shut on the whole Gordon thing. Nothing to see here, onwards and upwards. He gets his $7 million guaranteed. But then the body cam footage of the police officers that cited him for DUI, even though those charges were dismissed, have Gordon on camera admitting to drinking before driving. Now, That's not a crime in and of itself, Zach, if your blood alcohol level is below a certain point. So people are pointing to that as some kind of death knell. It's the smoking gun. Now he's definitely going to get suspended, and then you can get the voided guarantees. I don't think so. In this particular case, admitting to having a drink or having drank something at dinner or whatever, it's not proof, and they dropped the charges. So I'm still going to be surprised, Zach, if there's any further sanction by the NFL on Melvin Gordon because they dismissed the charge.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be cut by Denver. I don't think the NFL is going to ban him now that he was cleared, but it's just not a good look, legal or not, technical or not, to admit to a police officer on camera that you've been drinking before you've been driving. And we all knew this coming into the Melvin Gordon era, the red flags that he had, Chad. He held out in Los Angeles a few years ago. I mean, he has fumble issues. He wasn't, in my opinion, the greatest teammate to start off last year. So if you take on a player with those red flags, you want that player to at least blow you away. And when you're paying that player $8 million and he goes out and drinks Merlot and then drives and speeds, and you have a young running back on the roster who's not getting the carries he deserves, it just all adds into a very untenable situation. And for Melvin Gordon, though, I mean, he lucked out not getting charged, and he's going to luck out by having a job this year.
I think so. I mean, I'll be surprised if there's enough there for the NFL to throw any weight around. Hey, very, very, very generous top rope super chat from one of our great superstars, Michaela. And, Michaela, I think I think it's time to have you on the show. I mean, you've been with us at least a year, right? It's time to get you on the show if it's something you want to do. Not everyone wants to. We understand that. But if you'd like to come on the show, send us an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and we'll make the arrangements. But thank you so much. It means the world to us. I hope you know that. She says, is the linebacker any good? Is he worth it? Showing my MHH fam some love. So she's talking about the Vikings kid that we talked about at the top of the show.
I think for the money he's going to bring in or the lack of, I think you can do a lot worse than having Eric Wilson on your roster, not just because he knows George Paton, but like I said, he plays inside, outside. He's a dynamic tackler. And I know the Broncos have that already in Johnson and Jewell, but what he can do that Jewell and Johnson don't is create turnovers. They called him the walking turnover in Minnesota last year. 5 forced takeaways, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. You want to have those guys on the team, and the versatility. He's a good teammate from what I've read about him. His coaches loved him. You can do a lot worse than break the bank. When you have the Bud Dupree's out there, Chad, and the Shaq Barrett's out there, and the Melvin Ingrams out there, those guys are going to get $11-12 million a year. The Broncos don't need that. They have Bradley Chubb. Hopefully they'll have Von Miller. They have Malik Reed, who's turning into a baller on defense. They need just a little bit of a sprinkle on top, and that's what Eric Wilson could be. And for the contract he would require, I think it'd be a no-brainer move for Paton.
So he was more like a will linebacker in Mike Zimmer likes that 4-3 defense, right? So he was more like the will. And if you guys can think back to the Jack Del Rio defense or even the John Fox defense, the position Wesley Woodyard played, that was the position that Eric played, Eric Wilson. I keep forgetting his last name. But look at this, Zach, triple-digit combo tackle. I mean, he was over 100, 62 solo, and then as you mentioned, the takeaways, very interesting. I'm going to have to look into what is, we kind of take it with a grain of salt, but I'm going to be interested to see what his coverage grades were at PFF. We could take a look at that tonight if we want to.
He's all over the field, though. I mean, he had, I believe it was 8 quarterback hits and 9 tackles for loss. I mean, he was literally – the Vikings defense wasn't great last year. They were very injured and they were very ineffective, and that got overshadowed. But Wilson at times was the best player on that defense, and that's saying something.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up PFF for later. We can take a look at some of his coverage grades.
8 pass breakups. I mean, he literally did it all last year, and 15 starts. He's reliable. I don't know. I think it'd be a great signing.
Sounds like the Vikings are perhaps being a little unwise to let him hit the bricks. We shall see. John, appreciate the super chat, my friend. Good to see you. He says, LOL, the Chiefs are going to be so shafted on the O-line. So, yeah, in case you guys missed it, the Chiefs released both starting tackles today. All right, former number 1 overall pick Eric Fisher, who is coming off an Achilles tear, recent Achilles tear. Right, John? Wasn't that the injury? If I try to keep everything straight here, but pretty sure Achilles injury. And then, of course, the man that you might as well call Von Miller kryptonite, Mitchell Schwartz, he's free too. What crappy timing, Zach? You're locked down to Juwan James. You have the chance to go get the best right tackle in the league. You can't justify paying 2 right tackles top shelf money, plus paying Garrett Bowles top 5 money. It's too bad, but he's definitely not going to land here. And yes, the Chiefs, I mean, when you've got that dynamic quarterback that's going to get rid of the ball and all that and extending plays, it's a little less of a crisis, but still something to monitor for the Broncos.
I'm going to take some of the sting away because word on the street in the NFL, universe is that Schwartz is considering retirement. So if he retires, that's one thing. And regardless, the Chiefs need literally starting tackles now, and I would expect them to be very aggressive on the open market, very aggressive in the draft, filling those needs because, as you saw about a month ago, Mahomes can't do it by himself. He's not that, much of a deity on the field.
I'm just trying to find Eric Wilson's stats. Grades. Thank you for the super chat. The queen in the house, Christy. She says, Chad, you look 10 years younger. Hashtag manscaping. All right. It'll make you look 10 years younger. Trust. Thank you, Christy. Appreciate that.
Real testimonial, real quick. When Chad, guys, when he popped into the from the green room today on the screen, I literally did a triple take. It was wild. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought he found the fountain of youth. I was roasting him for a few minutes, but it was good times.
That's funny. All right, check this out. So Eric Wilson, let me pull this cat up real quick. I'll do the share screen here for you guys, and then we'll grab another question or two. Eric Wilson via PFF, all right? We want to see his – what's it doing? Why is it – all right, we want to see his defensive grades. I'm more curious about his coverage, so let me come over here. All right, in his targets. Well, a lot of 4 for 4s and 3 for 3s in coverage. Let's look at one last thing. Let me go back here to the homepage real quick. News and analysis. Let me go to grades. Let's take a look at linebacker. Let's search his name real quick. Bear with me here, gang. Yeah, let's see. Are we doing it? Linebackers. Yeah. So Eric Wilson. It's not letting me search his name, but either way, let me find him real quick. Just shouldn't take a second. Eric Wilson. There he is. All right. He had a 67.9. No, that's pass rush. Coverage grade was 65.5, which is like C level. It's like a C level pass coverage grade. But we take, Zach, it's all part of the puzzle. You take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, PFF grades, but
right.
It's something to note.
Yeah, I mean, also the fact that just because they sign Eric Wilson doesn't mean they can't draft a linebacker or, go that route or upgrade the position. Still, they can take a Parsons if they want in the first round. They can take a Jabril Cox in the second round. They can trade down and take a Zaven Collins if they want in the first round. It's just you want to have those veteran guys who the GM is familiar with and also can play multiple spots, and also he's productive and he won't break the bank and he's young. I mean, he really is the perfect cocktail in what you want as a second-tier free agent.
Indeed. All right, let me see here. Robert, we try to be, and by the way, Samuel on Facebook says we need to hit free agency hard. We need to hit free agency, hard look at our division. Yeah, I'm sure that'll definitely be something, a priority on his list, on George Paton's list. Robert says, would you take that super duper tight end at pick 9, Kyle Pitts from Florida? No. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take anything away from him, but why would you, Robert, when you have Noah Fant and Albert O, plus all the receiving talent that you could really ask for? All that offense is missing right now is a force to be reckoned with quarterback. Once that force to be reckoned with emerges, Zach, that offense is ready to go into freaking light speed.
If there's one position the Broncos don't need, and they need a lot, that would be a pass catcher. I don't understand. I know he's a good tight end. He's been comped to Darren Waller, but you have Noah Fant, and if you use Noah Fant correctly, he can be a perennial Pro Bowler. You mentioned Albert O. You know about the receivers. They have 2 good running backs still on the roster. They are loaded for bear on offense, and they need that young quarterback to step up. And if Drew Lock can step up, I mean, if he can play the offense like we think he can play it, that can be a top 12, top 15 offense. So, no. No Kyle Pitts for being use that position, use that pick at cornerback, linebacker, anywhere else but tight end.
Bronco number one fan. Love it. Good to see you. Appreciate you. This is my question. If somehow Parsons, Farley, or Patrick Surtain are off the board in the draft, so when the Broncos roll at 9, who do you go after that? So what's your answer?
I'm moving down in that scenario. I'm moving to the teens, and I'm moving back for maybe JOK or Zaven Collins and collecting a second round pick. I don't know who you take though in that scenario. I mean, maybe a Slater, a Stool offensive lineman. That's a little too rich for my blood at number 9 though. I think in that scenario, maybe JC Horn if he has a good pre-draft process, but that's a little. I don't know about a top 10 pick for him. I'm probably moving down in that scenario.
It depends on who's there, because if those 3 are gone, I'm taking a hard look at JC Horn and who's behind me, who needs cornerback help. That's the South Carolina corner. I think he's right up there. By the time it's all said and done, I think you're going to have a lot of draft nicks having them those 3 corners, Surtain, Farley, and Horn right there together. There's 1 or 2 others that kind of make up that top 5, but if you trade back, Zach, maybe you take a look, depending on what happens with Vaughn, because if you just pick up Vaughn's option and he's now entering 2021 ends up being a contract year, you need some edge depth. Maybe you look at Azeez Ojulari, the edge rusher from Georgia, if you move back a little, because pick 9's a little too early for me for Ojulari, but if you move back to 15, 20, something like that, I could consider it, because I just think at this point, you're loaded for bear, as you said, Zach, on offense. What you need now is to rebuild this defense so that Vic Fangio can really go blow for blow with these dynamic quarterbacks, especially in the division.
Yeah, I wouldn't take an edge guy at 9, but if they move back to 15, 17, whatever, I wouldn't mind that, because you're picking up an extra second or maybe third round pick. And I think in that scenario, though, I mean, you're talking about the 3 best defensive guys that can go for Denver at number 9. They're all off the board. Knowing Paton, what he wants to do, what he's told you he's considering, which is trading back, I think that's the likely outcome in that scenario.
All right, let's grab this one from Based Gase. Always great to see you, my friend. By the way, you ever want to come on the show, you say the word, reach out, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. We'd love to bring you on. We've offered to get you a shirt as well, but you never reply. You never say, yeah, get me my t-shirt, because I don't know why, but you got one ready for you, dog, a t-shirt. And at worst, we need you on the show. Come on the show sometime. Reach out to us and send us an email. We'll set it up. He says, thoughts on Paton going to North Dakota for the North Dakota State Pro Day, Trey Lance Pro Day. Smoke screen or due diligence? Be safe, Colorado, MHH fam, stay home. So what's interesting about that, Zach, there are a few prospects, North Dakota State that are eligible for the draft, right? But it really is about Trey Lance if you're making that trip. And in this case, it's the GM going. I don't think it's a smokescreen. I really don't. I think he's going there to get an up-close look at Trey Lance. And because I think that's probably the quarterback of the big 4, they are most expecting to be there at pick 9.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, of all the guys, he probably would be, but he has the most realistic shot to be. And I wouldn't be surprised if he saw Mac Jones, Chad. I mean, if for the same reasons, it's a GM being a good GM. And I personally believe this was just due diligence by George Paton. He's going to check out a lot of prospects between now and late April, and Trey Lance happens to be one of them because he's a realistic option number 9. He will see every realistic option at number 9 that there is, just in case, in a worst case scenario, or someone blows him away, he has some background information. I wouldn't leap to a conclusion like, oh, he's going to take Trey Lance at number 9. He's going to do this a lot between now and April. So I think it's him being a good general manager.
Man, I was just going to look up Micah Parsons' coverage grade on PFF, because we do have the college subscription for PFF because of all our draft guys. But it's not letting me go beyond 2020. I'll see if I can figure that out. But it's this question from Chase. Isn't Parsons supposedly, right, not great in coverage, which is what we need? He is an athlete. That might not be his forte, but I have very little doubt that if you were to get Micah Parsons under the wing of Vic Fangio, it would be a short matter of time before that was solved.
Yeah, and he's not the best coverage linebacker. There's better, JOK is better. You can even make the case for Zaven Collins. But like Chad said, he's the all-around best inside linebacker. And him even being an average coverage guy is way better than A.J. Johnson or Josie Jewell. They need dynamic players on defense, and they've long lacked that since Trevathan went bye-bye. If you put Micah Parsons between, let's say, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, you have that front line, you have that secondary, he will take away so many problems on defense because he can run with guys. He can be a sideline-to-sideline guy, and I think a lot of these athletic issues surrounding him are a little overblown. Is he going to be an all-world guy in coverage? No, but if they can even get consistent above average in coverage, that would represent an upgrade on what they've had for the last 4 or 5 years.
Antonio, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate the super chat. He says, what's up, guys? Sorry, I've been busy with work and life, but it's great to catch the pod. Hashtag Broncos country. Always great having you, Antonio. And I hope you know, we do miss you, my dog, when you're not in the stream, but we understand. You got to take care of business, life. You got to take care of whatever's in front of you, whatever's on your docket.
Life happens. Look at that. Wow.
The veritable princess of MHH, Pobby in the house. Man, thank you so much, my friend. I was just singing your praises a couple days ago to somebody unrelated in terms of what I was just talking about. People were asking me, a friend of mine, he's more like my brother. We grew up together. We're like cousins, but we're not blood related. And he was just curious about, what we do with the podcast and fans and stuff like that, listeners and all that. And I showed him, because he came to visit me, and I showed him some of the stuff that Pobby sent us, some of the stuff some of our great community members sent, like, just the swag, everything from what Stu has sent, Duke, Mundungus, Glenn. I mean, Glenn's gift to me, it's one of my most cherished gifts of all time, but Pobby, yours as well. So love you, appreciate you. She says, shout out to Levi Hope for his service. I have a lot of respect for veterans. Levi, 8-year veteran of the Marine Corps. I listened to the podcast on my way home last night. It was great as always. See you all next time. Thank you, MHHers. Love you, Pobby.
Respect the hell out of you, Pobby, because I have the utmost respect for our armed forces and for law enforcement, for people who served. And Levi, I told him that last time. I'll tell him again. Thank you for your service. And everyone listening right now, if you serve, thank you so much from Chad and I both.
Yep. And John. Chris,
and John.
Talk about service. 24. When do we cross into 25? And by the way, did you reply? I asked you what brand that base was, dude. Was that a Fender Precision? What was that base, dude, that you showed me the picture of on Facebook, Chris? I'll look after the show, but yeah, he's reminding you, click those little thumbs up, y'all. Appreciate that, Chris. And of course, Chris will be on the show again for the second time very, very soon, in just a couple of weeks. So we look forward to that.
Yeah. See you soon, Chris. Thank you.
Zach of aka Burn, the guitarist. John, go ahead and throw him up. There he is. He says, hey, guys, looking forward to Vaughn and Chubb getting double-digit sacks against KC next year. Let me dream. Yeah, I mean, hey, we can't get too, don't get too out there in terms of hoping for 30 sacks. I mean, Zach, from the time you joined the beat in 2016, so 2018, 2019, 2020, how many articles were written about bold predictions from this analyst or that analyst that Vaughn and Chubb were going to get to 30,
I was actually thinking, how many articles did I used to write about Vaughn wanting to hit 30 sacks in one season or 20 sacks in one season? It's really hard to do, but they have that potential. And even Vaughn, at his age now, coming off that injury, if they both play up to who they are and their potential, it could be a wild season in terms of sacks for Denver.
Charlie wants to know if we saw the Blockbuster trade ESPN predicted for us. You got to remind me, be a little bit more specific, because right now there are so many little news aggregation stories that we're covering as a website, as a publication, to make sure our community, our readers and viewers and watchers, that they don't miss anything, any buzz, any rumor, anything noteworthy related to the Denver Broncos. You'll have to be a little bit more specific because, well, let me look at the headline real quick here. There was ESPN Draft Insider predicts Broncos that they trade back and take Caleb Farley. Is that the one you're talking about? Probably, Charlie. If that happens, man, that's a gift horse you don't look in the mouth. I mean, if you're able to trade back and still land Caleb Farley and stack 1 or 2 additional picks, that's great. But I don't see it happening.
I I wouldn't categorize that as blockbuster either. Moving back and still getting a player who might not go. We assume he's a top 10 pick, but we've seen players fall out of the top 10, top 20. It may very well be the case if teams are wary on him not playing, opting out last season, Caleb Farley. If that wasn't it, I haven't heard anything. I would assume, though, a blockbuster trade idea from ESPN would involve a quarterback. So let us know in the comments.
Yeah, Todd McShay, excuse me, he said, let me find this. In this scenario, the Broncos opt to stick with Drew. So what do they – so here, let me close this. So they go McShay and his counterpart, Mel Kiper, did not utilize trades in projecting their mock drafts in years past. But recently, ESPN's Draftnik duo has begun to sprinkle some into their prognostications. McShay's mock draft has the Broncos making a deal with the Niners, who move up to grab Mac Jones, while McShay has the Broncos moving back to 12 there and taking Caleb Farley. So, yeah, I'm sure that's what you're talking about. And, again, I would love it if it happened. If he's still on the board there at 9, I'd be stunned if the Broncos were to move back.
I don't like Mac Jones to the Niners either. If I want to see Trey Lance with Shanahan, that'd be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think Mac Jones, besides Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones is the quarterback in this class. This is why he's a dark horse possibility for your Denver Broncos. He's the one quarterback beside Lawrence in this class who I think could actually win you some games as a rookie. Maybe not, changing the game. He's not going to blow anybody away. But he's a guy that knows how the sausage is made, so to speak, and kind of step in if needed. And if Drew Lock were to fall on his face, forestall Vic Fangio, perhaps, as he'd have a chance of forestalling Fangio from getting the axe.
Well, here's a minority kind of comment, Chad. We don't get a lot. Get rid of Drew Lock. We need a quarterback from Josiah. $5 super chat. Thank you, Josiah. More than entitled to your opinion. I don't think they're going to get rid of Drew Lock, though. I think whether you like it or not, Lock will be on the roster in some capacity this season. And I think, like Cliff said earlier, like we went over, he's going to open this season as a starter with a better backup behind him. And it's up to him. How long he plays this year is up to Drew Lock. So don't get your hopes up of that happening.
I'm just taking a quick look here, John, to see the order of our great superstars and very patient superstars. All right, so we got everyone there. Let me see. We got Hunter, Drew, Castillo, Dennis, Rocco, Tom, Anthony. Hunter, in the house. Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. He says, keep it up, guys. Excuse me. Finally about to snag some merch. Long overdue. Appreciate it. He says, appreciate what you guys do with the listeners and the fans. Hey, man, it's our pleasure. We seriously get a kick out of it. Like, we look forward to our superstar segments. The only reason we don't do them during the season is just because the news cycle doesn't really allow us to dedicate that additional time and setting it up and having them on. So in the off season, we totally love it, having everybody on that's the key members of our community. And for lack of a better term, the crowd, I don't want to say crowdfunding of the podcast, but it's similar. It's the people that are making sure this content continues to come night after night. And we love getting you guys on the show. And Hunter, you're another one. If you want to come on the show sometime, let us know. milehighhuddle@gmail.com or on Twitter, DM either of us, and we'll arrange it.
And if you do get your merch, send us a picture. We'll be happy to post it on the Mile High Huddle Instagram page, and we hope you like it. HuddleUpPod.com. Thank you.
Real quick here, John, before you grab the next one, just shout out here to Joe D. Don't always catch it live, but I watch every single pod you guys put out since a little before you guys went live. Very cool.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. All right, let me see here. John, do you have Drew H. and Mr. Castillo? There he is. Another one of our most favorite YouTube profile picks. The superstar Drew, who's going to be on the show very, very soon. He says, I love the Wilson idea, talking about the linebacker. We're not talking Russ. We're not talking about Zach. I'd give Kyle Van Noy a call too. He's kind of a do-it-all guy, though. I agree that Kyle Van Noy is a very useful, valuable, versatile linebacker, but he's a guy that costs a lot of money. And so if you're going to go spend on Kyle Van Noy, like, in my opinion, yes, that versatility, it's good to have, but you would need to have a very, I think, specific plan in place for Kyle Van Noy to get that bang for the buck.
He didn't really work out well for the Dolphins last year. They cut him after, 1 year into a 4-year mega contract. And Brian Flores is a great defensive mind there in Miami. And if he didn't make it work with Van Noy, I don't think in Denver he would have much success either. And he's going to get a lot of money, I feel. And I brought up Matt Milano earlier. Again, $44 million, 4 years, $11 million per year. Van Noy should get maybe 8 or 9 of that. And I don't think the Broncos should break the bank on someone of that ability. I'd much rather settle for Eric Wilson. And it wouldn't be much of a settle because he can do it all as well. And he'd be saving about $4 or $5 million on an annual basis. That's my guy at linebacker.
By the way, if you're going to get a nice new piece of merch, check out the newest t-shirt design up there, the new Mile High Huddle logo with the football and the kind of shieldy looking deal. So far, it's been a hot cake. People buying it, all our great fans and members of the community. So check that out if you're getting yourself some new merch, Hunter. All right, let's grab this. Mr. Castillo, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you being with us and the support as always. He says, out of those cut and unrestricted free agents, which defensive player and offensive player would be your pickup as the GM? So the people who have been cut right up to this point and unrestricted guys that are out there. Defense. There's a few guys. I'm gonna keep it simple for now. Offense, I'm going out there and I'm trying to ink Alex Smith. Alex Smith to me has crossed above in prioritization Andy Dalton, but I'd be happy with either one of those guys as the hedge / competitive push for Drew Lock.
Yeah, offense, I'll say, Andy Dalton for the sake of conversation, and I'll say Dakota Dozier from the Vikings. He's an offensive lineman that can play inside or outside as well. I mean, Amir Abdullah from the Vikings. A lot of Vikings free agents that George Paton can go after. On defense, though, you got to get a cornerback. So Mike Hilton, William Jackson, Troy Hill, Mackenzie Alexander, one of those guys, and Eric Wilson. I'm not just saying that because I wrote the article. I've liked this guy for a while now, and I think he would be a really ideal fit for Paton in year one.
All right, let me just show you guys something real quick here. Here's why I was kind of buying time, ambivalent on my defensive selection. All right. As Zach said, you got to go out one of those 2 starting corners that you're currently missing because you only have one corner that you can really hang your hat on as a starter to count on, right? And that's Bryce Callahan. Who knows? Maybe Michael Ojemudia turns that corner in year 2 and becomes a guy like that. But if you are trying to hedge and put a plan in place that you can count on, you need 2 starting corners this year. One from free agency, one from draft is probably how it shakes out. In free agency, Zach, I'm looking at this guy right here. I'm looking at I skipped him. Where'd he go? A little farther. Where the heck did he go? I just had him, dude. Xavier Rhodes. There he is, right here. Xavier Rhodes is who I like. That's the corner I like. Yes, he's 31. All right. But I think this is a guy, Zach, who would be really interesting in Vic Fangio's scheme. And he'll cost some money, but I don't think he's going to cost A.J. Bouye $14 million a year type money, right?
Plus, he knows Paton as well from Minnesota. So, yeah, cornerback, I would not mind Xavier Rhodes, Alexander, Mike Hilton, Jackson. There's a lot of names out there, but they're not going to go after Chad. Like you've mentioned and we've mentioned before, the Petersons, the Richard Shermans, they're not going to break the bank at cornerback after cutting A.J. Bouye precisely for that reason.
This is weird. Oh, wait. Is it because I have 2 selected?
I hate when it does that. Yeah.
Here we go. So here's your linebacker options, and I am so glad I discovered, dude, that Over the Cap has the free agents broken down by position because, man, Spot Track was killing me for the live streams. But Quan, all right, I like him on the surface, but I fear his injury history and the money he's sure to command. KJ Wright, long in the tooth, but potential option. What do you think about Sean Lee, dude? Is he done at 35?
He has literally 1 leg left. You would get 3 games out of him, and he'd be on IR for the rest of the year. So
Eric Wilson, another, I think, no longer low-key option for the Denver Broncos at linebacker. Let me just keep going here. Jared Davis or Gerard, I can't remember how you pronounce his name.
Wasn't he a first rounder?
He was either a first or second. I think he was a first rounder out of Florida, and he's a guy that I know Eric Trickle had a really good grade on coming out as a prospect, but he's definitely, he's not lived up to expectations. Let's just put it that way as a pro.
One of the guys you mentioned, or you skipped past, was Denzel Perryman from the Chargers. I've always kind of liked him. He's had some injury concerns, but man, that guy can lay a lick on defense.
The problem with him is he's not going to help you in coverage, but as you said, thumper, run fit, tone setter. It's funny, dude. When I was at the 2015 Senior Bowl, and that whole week of practice where you get to talk to the prospects after each session, you get to go out on the field as media, and you can stick your phone in their face and ask them questions. And while other people are doing that, you can get your phone in there, and it's really a lot of fun. And I just happened to get a very rare one-on-one scenario for about 5 minutes with Denzel Perryman, and he was a high-profile prospect coming out of Miami. Right, he was at the top 2 or 3 linebackers in the class. And I thought it was weird, Zach, because here's this phenomenal athlete, a feared hitter, just a dominant player. And I was looking down at him. I'm right at 6 foot, and he's like 5. He's got to be like 5'10", 5'10 and a half. I think he's listed at 5'11", but I think he's probably just a little bit shorter than that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always going back to Miami. I watched him in person. He's always a dynamic player to me. But that's what Fangio likes. He doesn't seem to like the 3-down guy. He likes the 2-down thumpers. And if they want to replace Jewell this season, or maybe have a longer term option, Perriman would make sense. But Avery Williamson also, he never really panned out with the Jets, but he was always lauded for his pass coverage ability. And I think the Steelers picked him up last year when they lost Devin Bush to that injury. For a short-term contract, he won't land what he landed in New York, but for a 1 or 2 year deal, just for his pass covering ability, I wouldn't mind him as well.
So here's a couple of the pluses, though, on the Denzel front. He is 28, so he's still got 2 or 3 prime years left in the tank. He knows your division.
Right.
And, he's probably not going to break the bank, Zach. I mean, he can command a little something, but if you look at his history – let me go up here. Drafted in 2015, renegotiated a deal in 2019 to stick around. Total of $12 million for 2 years, basically. So averaging $6 million per year. And then in 2020, so that's the second half of that deal. Probably $5 or $6 million. Would he be worth it to you for that cost, considering that the Broncos already have 2 really solid run-fitting, thumping type linebackers?
I would prefer Eric Wilson over Perriman, but as a fallback plan, I would not mind him on that market. There's not a lot of great names out there that are productive or younger, and I think Perriman among them is the one of the better ones.
Richie, good to see you, bro. He says, how are the Chiefs going to pay all of these required free agents?
How are they going to pay Mahomes? How are they going to pay Kelsey? How are they going to pay Chris Jones? I mean, they didn't cut these guys because they're up against the cap. They cut Schwartz because he's retiring, and they cut the other tackle because he's getting older as well. And it was you have to move on eventually. So they will find a way. And I keep saying it, and I'll say it again. And what's going on in New Orleans right now demonstrates that the salary cap is a myth, folks. And I promise you, the Chiefs, they will sport 2 prime tackles this season, acquired either veterans or rookies, and they will go to battle. And we will all wonder, how did they do that, Chad? How did they manage to squeeze under the cap? They'll find a way. Yeah,
it's going to happen. Brett wants to know, after we grab Daniel, we'll grab Brett on Facebook. He says, and this is a newer name on Super Chat. I think this is the second time I can remember Daniel being in the Super Chat. So we see you, we appreciate you. Welcome, and connect with us on Twitter so that we can keep the conversation going, keep tabs on you, and we love being able to shout out and tag each one of our superstars on Twitter after each show. So connect with us there. Daniel says, I know corner is a major spot this year, but I feel we have needed a true cover linebacker for years. Justin Sternad is an unknown, but I would love to draft Micah Parsons. I feel you. And you know what? If you, Zach, were to draft Micah Parsons and you end up getting a healthy Justin Sternad in 2021, you might be able to have your cake and eat it too, because both those guys are really good, dynamic, speedy, athletic, just twitched up backers.
And then you still have the thumpers. You still have Johnson. You still have Jewell. That's a pretty well-rounded linebacker core. If Sernod hits and the Broncos do land with Parsons, you could do a lot worse because, again, that's the one position they're lacking, and they have lacked for quite a few years now, is that dynamic inside linebacker. They're solid everywhere else. You put that guy in the middle there, watch out.
Brett on Facebook says, love the show, guys. Thank you. TMZ is going to get Melvin Gordon released, ? I really don't see it. I mean, it's creating some bad optics and some bad PR, but the Broncos can't release him without paying a hefty price unless the NFL were to step in and suspend him. If he were suspended, I think there might be, a hole in that boat where the Broncos could justifiably get out of the guaranteed portion. But Zach, again, without conviction, the charges, it's not just that he was acquitted. I know it was a plea deal, Zach, but he wasn't just acquitted. The charges were dismissed. So unless there's some kind of evidence out there, which he would have had to have been completely off his rocker to allow any kind of blood test, if, when he was cited, unless there's some kind of specific evidence like that the NFL were to get its hands on, regardless of the PR crap storm, I don't think it's going to really make a difference in terms of Gordon's, where he's at with the team this year.
Right. We don't have that smoking gun. And that's why I think he's going to be back. And that's what we said before he was cleared, that if he does get off on these charges, that he will survive the potential removal of his guarantees. And I think the Broncos, they really can't cut their leading rusher. I mean, from an optics point of view, that would be not a wise move from Paton, at least without having an established replacement on the roster. I don't think the Broncos under Pat Shurmur specifically believe Lindsey can be that guy, the RB1, no doubt about it kind of guy. So they're going to buy their time. They might draft a replacement player for the future. And regardless, though, I think this is Melvin Gordon's final season in orange and blue. And
for what it's worth, I see a few other questions, including from Richie. Look, he was acquitted. All right. I'm not going to cut him based on the DUI. All right. Especially because I'm on the hook for that several $1 million. So, if I wasn't beholden to a guaranteed contract that my predecessor locked me into and I'm George Paton, then the juice might not be worth the squeeze here in terms of the PR crap storm and just bringing the Broncos into these kind of optics publicly. But that's just not where we're at. Daniel, again, thank you, brother. Looking for corners in free agency. Are you guys thinking Shaquem Griffin or Janoris Jenkins types? Also, how is OJ Mudia projecting for next year? So your thoughts on Griffin and Jenkins, and I can maybe grab OJ Mudia.
Griffin, I don't mind terribly, but I think he's going to cost, a pretty penny. I want literally nothing to do with Janoris Jenkins. The Jackrabbit, I mean, he's fallen off so far in the NFL landscape. I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole. Ojemudia, Chad, I think in a best-case scenario where you want him next year is cornerback 3. I think if he's starting on a full-time basis, it's not an ideal scenario. I don't think he's ready for that just yet. So if you have a Farley, Callahan, and then you have an Ojemudia, and then you have, let's say, a Mike Hilton, that's quietly a respectable cornerback core. But if you don't have that, if you don't have a Farley, and you're forced to play Michael Ojemudia at cornerback 1, cornerback 2, that's not where I think Fangio wants to be. I guess I'm solo for now. I don't know where Chad went, John. Is he coming back? I feel like Luke right now when he hopped out of the room.
I'm clicking over to do share screen on over the cap, and I just barely clipped the X right next to StreamYard, and it X'd out the. I
feel like Mile High Insiders. I felt like Nick for a second.
I know.
I didn't know what to do.
Go on though.
I'm just saying, Ojemudia, I just, in a best case scenario, I don't think he's going to start next year. That's why we're saying you can't have him and Essang Bassi and with an injured Bryce Callahan perpetually as your starting cornerback. So that's where I think he's projecting cornerback 3.
Yeah. Yep. And Ojemudia, I mean, look, of all the third round corners John Elway drafted in those last 5 years as GM, Ojemudia has shown the most positive signs that he could be a factor for this team, but it's still only 1 year, and his rookie year was like this, but he did kind of steady down the stretch. So I don't want to sell him too short, but it's just, again, it goes back to the prospect of, can you bank on it? And in this case, you definitely can't. You got to find 2 starting caliber corners. And then if Ojemudia, because look, injuries are going to happen. It's part of the game. Look what happened last year. If and when you got to turn to that number 4 guy on the depth chart to play starter snaps, that's when OJ Moody can prove or reveal whether or not he has taken another step forward. Let's grab Rocco. He says, good evening, guys, and thank you, Rocco. Hope things are good. How much of a risk is it to trade up for picks if you still want to get Farley or Surtain, or just keep your pick number 9? I'm not trading up for anything other than a quarterback, and I'm not looking for quarterback this year. So risky? I mean, what? You're giving up capital. I mean, we could go through and show you the draft pick value chart, guys, but it's a pretty penny just to – I mean, if you were to go from just 9 to 5, Zach, it's arm and a leg.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but maybe he means trade back, not trade up for more picks. I think he's saying how much of a risk is it to trade back and sacrifice losing out on Farley or Surtain? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'd rather keep the pick. If one of those guys is on the board, I would not chance losing out on a cornerback because, again, how badly you need the guy. This is a rare situation where BPA intersects with drafting for need, and the Broncos can't afford to tempt fate and miss out on a Caleb Farley or Surtain at number 9. And he didn't mean trade down. He's
okay, 10-4. Yeah, in that case, as far as the risk is concerned, it just depends on – you got to look at the lay of the land. You got to see who's behind you. How far back are you looking at going? What are you willing to risk in order to lose the guy you want, in order to also still, get those picks? I don't know. It's a risk, but we don't know for sure how much George Paton likes any of the specific corners, with the exception of Farley just keeps getting mocked to the Broncos. And it's pretty obvious why in terms of scheme fit. I mean, he's a guy that could outlast. He's head coach proof, right? Doesn't matter what scheme. He can be playing any scheme. Surtain, it's a little bit more scheme specific. So if you're George Paton and you're looking to draft a corner in the first round this year, Zach, and you're not positive if Vic's going to be back in his system the next year, you're a lot safer rolling with Farley in terms of you don't have to try and project what kind of scheme this guy can fit in if Fangio's not around next year.
If you need a cornerback, Farley is the best cornerback in this draft class. So it's 2 + 2 = 4.
All right, we got to hustle because we just crossed the hour mark. So let's grab a super chat here from Anthony. Good to see you, my friend. His question is, and appreciate the support, man. Feels good to finally catch a live pod. It's been a while. Hey, man. Yeah, we miss you when you're not with us, dog. Whoops, my bad, John. Throw that up. Tom El Greco also in the house up there north of the 49th parallel. That proves Broncos country is not a geographic location. It's a hashtag state of being, baby. Hey, boys, been a while. Off topic. If Drew stays healthy, 30 to 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 3,500 to 4,000 yards passing. What do you think, basically? I think that's like the dream season. That's the dream. And I don't say that because I'm not trying to crap on Drew. But when you guys asked me this question last year, when everyone in Broncos country, with only a very few exceptions, were geeked up and stoked and just riding high on the Drew Lock train. And we would say 23, 24, 25 touchdowns is probably like the best case scenario for Drew in 2020. And everyone's like, what do you mean? He's not going to throw 50 like Mahomes, Peyton, Tom Brady, Marino? No, he's not, dude. 23, 24, 25. That to me would be a more than solid 2021 for Drew. If you were to get into the low 30s, Zach, I mean, you're talking about he's now a superstar probably in the league.
Yeah, that really is a best case scenario because I was looking at those stats and the yards wouldn't surprise me. The touchdowns, it's a little surprising. 35 touchdowns for Locke. He can do it, but 10 picks, that's where it's a little unrealistic. If he's going to take that many chances, knowing how turnover prone he has been and the type of game he likes to play, those interceptions probably be like 15, 16, 17. But even then, 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns and 16 picks, that's a playoff team right there.
Yep. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more super. Nope, excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more supers, and then we got to get going and we got to rapid fire because I have to. I have an appointment with Kim tonight to shoot some videos, which I can push back a little bit, so it's okay. We're not in a super rush because we were late getting on tonight. I am Supreme 22. Good to see you. We need a top 31 QBR type of cornerback. Let's go, fam. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Hey, one ranking higher is better than a sharp stick in the eye, right? If you get from 32 to 31.
Or 33 to 31, because he's the 33rd best quarterback in the NFL, apparently, according to some.
Rogue Theory. Josh in the house. Good to see you, bro. He says, appreciate you. He says, glad to catch the pod. I took a promotion at work. Congrats, dude. So I've been busy. And whoa, my guy Chad, ready to jump back in the pit with the shave. Yeah, it's like I'm 16 again. Skins and Punks. Who should we chase in free agency, if anybody? What he's talking about there, guys, and most people, and I got to be careful because I don't want us to get some kind of a hit on our social media for me saying something that is not actually what I'm saying. It can be interpreted by a robot out of context. But his thing here about Skins and Punks, it's not what you think. It's not the racial thing. It's just there's certain people in punk rock that would, they'd wear Doc Martens, they'd wear the suspenders, shave their heads, they'd go out there and they called those guys skins. All right. So not because they were racially superior people, although I'm sure there are people like that out there. That's not what he is talking about. So who should we chase in free agency, if anybody? Drew, thank you for the stars, dog. Hey, man, I'm still all about trying to see if I can get Alex Smith back in the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, quarterback, whether it's, again, Alex Smith, Dalton, whoever, cornerback, whether that's, Mike Hilton, Mackenzie Alexander, whoever, maybe a linebacker like an Eric Wilson. You're going to see George Paton use a measured approach and just kind of, like I said, sprinkle in a little bit of the signings on the roster and save the majority of roster building, though, for the draft. I don't anticipate him making any splashes. I think the quarterback that he does sign or acquire will be the biggest splash he makes in terms of the signing period. So don't expect anything crazy. I'll say that again.
Wolf Sky, I love you. We appreciate how active you are with the content and the questions or the comments. But we can't go back down the Gardner Minshew path again. It's just
no.
We don't get it. We don't understand it. Muhammad with another super sticker. Appreciate that, bro. Really do. Appreciate you, my friend. All right, let me see here real quick. Norman Hall in the house. Appreciate you. How does it feel to have the best Broncos pod?
Feels amazing.
When people ask me how I'm doing, I say living the dream. And it's the truth, dude. It's the truth. All right. Thank you, Norman. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Michaela back in the house again. Thank you. You're the bomb. She says, hashtag draft Surtain, hashtag best Broncos pod, hashtag state of being. I wouldn't cry if it was Surtain. I really wouldn't. I like Surtain a lot. But I just think at what cost? Did you pass on Farley or was Farley already off the board? Honestly, I would go Farley, Horn, then Surtain. That's me. But Surtain's, he's got a higher floor, but his ceiling is nowhere approaching either one of those two guys, in my opinion. Now, some of the hardcore draft guys, I know Luke, for example, Luke Patterson, he's really big on Patrick Surtain, so he might, have a bone to pick with me saying that. But nevertheless, I just like the athletic ceiling and potential of Farley. Then it's Horn, and then Surtain. But if he were picked, I'm not crying any tears.
The big three debate kind of reminds me of last year with receivers. Do the Broncos, is Jerry Jeudy the one? Is Henry Ruggs the one? Is CeeDee Lamb the one? And now it's the same kind of, debate. Whoever the Broncos get, whether it's Horns, you can debate the merits of them or their scheme fits or your opinion, but whoever they get of those three will help the Broncos defense because, again, they badly need bodies, plural, at cornerback.
Clinton Watson jumping in with a very generous super chat, and it's a newer name anyway on Super. So welcome. Thank you. He says, I've been milking the show for too long without saying thank you for all your hard work. Dude, you're hitting us in the fields. Thank you. Y'all make that little difference and put a little levity in my life. Love y'all. Donkeys for life. Hey, appreciate that, Clinton. Connect with us on Twitter, my friend, so we can keep tabs and keep the conversation going.
And Clinton and everybody else out there, you guys put levity in our lives. You guys mean as much to us as we do to you. So that's why we're so appreciative. Thank you again.
Here's one real quick from Jason O'Neill. Let me grab this. Hold John just for a second because I don't want to lose Jason. I'm going to keep scrolling. He wants to know, I see that Paton and the contingent will be traveling to put eyes on Trey Lance. Will the Broncos also be traveling to see other quarterbacks as well? Yeah, I think, and now go ahead, John. I think you'll see them. Again, I think the reason it's starting with Lance, first of all, there's chronological, that's what's available right this second. So that's where they're going. But I'm guessing they probably think he's the guy most likely to be there at 9 if they do end up deciding as a franchise, let's go ahead and take a quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if Paton doesn't show up at BYU Pro Day as well as Ohio State and maybe even, of course, Alabama, because of all the other prospects you're seeing.
I'll say this. I'd be shocked if the Broncos took a quarterback at number 9, but I'd also be shocked if Paton wasn't at everyone's pro day at who could be there at number 9 as well. It's a GM being a good GM. It's a guy who's done this for 14 years now back in Minnesota, and it's part of his job is seeing the best talent out there and scouting what he sees fit. This is why we wanted him, Chad, his scouting prowess, and he's putting that on full display now. So I don't think it's a smokescreen. I think it's just Paton doing his job and doing it well.
John Houston, thank you, my friend. Parsons is not good in coverage, an average pass rusher. Steve Atwater said he has no instincts, gets lost, and wouldn't draft him. We need a corner, period. Yeah, I think that's a pretty unforgiving evaluation on Parsons, to be frank with you. And having met and talked with Steve Atwater before, I have a hard time seeing him saying, I would not draft Parsons unless there's something about his off the field stuff that he says is no go. But like, dude, turn on the tape and watch Parsons. Right. That dude's freaking phenomenal player. But he's not without a few words. Willie, thank you for the super dog. He says, just wanted to say what's up, fellas. What's up?
Thank you, Willie. Good to see you.
BNS, I want to see Kelberman's corner versus the herd. Can you arrange that, Zach? Hashtag all Pro Bowls. Crow pie. For Zach.
I misread that second hashtag, and I was like, what? Some guys will get that out there.
All right, I think we are caught up. All right. Let me just do one last thing before we dip on out of here because we like to let me actually, before I do that, stand by 1 second. All right, here's one, Zach. While I pull something up here, grab this because we like to be as even and democratic as possible on the actual mailbag episodes from James here while I pull something up.
Yeah, James jumping in. Is Farley not playing this last year not a concern for someone who would be a day one starter? I mean, you have to take into consideration that we don't have film on him from the 2020 season, but we do have film from what he did do in college, and I think that film suffices enough to make him a top 10 pick, and he's the best corner in this draft class. And we're not just saying that. It's not one person's evaluation. It's the consensus opinion. And I don't think his opt-out will change that. I think he'll be a definite surefire first-round pick. And the Broncos, they need first-round cornerbacks. I wouldn't demur on Farley because he didn't play last year. I don't know about you, Chad. We don't know about George Paton, how they feel specifically, but there's a good chance, regardless of what he did or didn't do last year, he will be rocking orange and blue come April.
All right, I just want to make sure I have this staged. I want to make sure our Facebook community that is so great about giving us stars that they get their props. John, good to see you, bro. Hey, your swag should be showing up any day, so make sure you send us that profile pic. Greg, good to see you, bro. Rocking the Let 'em Hate t-shirt. Love it. All right, let me just do a scroll up here. We got to give our Facebook community their props here. Shout out to Brett Garner. We already answered one of his questions. There's Randy. Good to see you. One of our supporters. Drew. Good to see you. There's Drew with some stars. Appreciate that, brother. 5-week streak going.
Thank you.
Gary, 6-week streak. He says, I don't know how I caught you guys live, but love all my Broncos fam.
We don't know either, but we're happy you're here.
Drew's talking about, hey, man, what's up with all this Minshew talk? He isn't even that good. His social media is the biggest thing about him.
Yes, preach.
Oh, you know what? It's not letting me go to the top for some reason. I'll have to. Well, guys, I kind of botched that on the Facebook front. But listen, on Facebook, we love you, appreciate you. And even though we're signing off the Huddle Up podcast for the week right now, let not your heart be troubled because Zach is going to be back Sunday at noon for Kelberman's Corner, episode 10. We've now reached the double-digit point for Kelberman's Corner. So I know from what he's told me, a very special episode cooking up. Because what starts the next day, Zach?
You guys, considering the show, the questions we got on tonight's show, you guys are going to love Kelberman's Corner on Sunday. I will keep you in suspense, though. I promise you it's worth it to tune in. I will have a couple names that I think the Broncos should and maybe will sign next week.
All right, so tune in for that. And if you want to become an official supporter, you just go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, or just go to our page. I mean, almost all of you who watch the show, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, you're all following that page. There's almost 100,000 people following the Mile High Huddle page on Facebook. There's a big blue button at the top that says Become a Supporter. Click that. You get access to not only Kelberman's Corner, but as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you also get access to the Trickle Zone, which we are debuting Saturday at noon Mountain Time. And here's a little promo poster for it. You'll start seeing this poster on our social media going up here shortly. We just had her made up. So subscribe there, become a supporter. You get that. Also connect on Twitter. It doesn't cost you anything. At Huddle Up Pod, at Mile High Huddle. Muhammad, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you, dog. At Mile High Huddle, my partner, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, myself, at Chad and Jensen, our producer, John K. MHH on Twitter. And again, gentle reminder to go follow also the podcast page on Facebook. All right, so that you can get in on the giveaways. But other than that, Zach, have a great weekend, dog, and look forward to seeing what you got cooking for Sunday's Kelberman's Corner.
Yes, sir. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, John. Everyone in the chat, everyone listening to us right now, we will see you. I will see you, and Kim Becker will see you Sunday at noon for KK episode 10. And then Chad and I will be back on Sunday night for the Huddle Up podcast, the last pod before all hell breaks loose in the NFL next week. It should be a fun one. Should have some rumors. We'll see you there. 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Have a great weekend. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.